you ready to meditate with Kari? Climb up into bed and make sure that you get all comfortable. Today's meditation story is all about a little boy called Nate. Nate is not actually a little boy anymore. He's a grown-up, but I'm going to tell you about Nate when he was a little boy. You might be just like Nate. Let's see. But first of all, make sure your covers are just right. The light's good in your room and you have your teddy. It's time to let go of your day, your busy day. It's time to relax and just lay down. You can close your eyes if you want to and listen to the story like that, or you can leave your eyes open. It's completely up to you. Take a nice deep breath and start to slow down your body and your mind. Breathe in and breathe out. Just a few times, nice deep breaths. Think about starting to let your body relax and get heavy. You can listen to the music and listen to my voice and think about your body becoming all sleepy and heavy and relaxed. And you're going to try and stay as still as you possibly can. My friend Nate could not stay still. He was a wigglewort. That means he moved and ran and played and just couldn't stay still at all, ever. He had a really hard time with it. In fact, when Nate was small, he had a hard time with lots of things. He had a hard time staying still and focusing. Having to focus and be quiet or concentrate for a long period of time was really, really hard for Nate. You might be like this. Some people at school said that Nate had ADD or ADHD, whatever you want to call it. Maybe you've heard of that. It basically means that he had a hard time staying focused and staying still. But I believe something different about ADHD and ADD and kids that can't stay still. I believe that they just are very bright, special children, and they need to learn things in a different way. But anyway, let me tell you about the story. Nate had a hard time in school. He really didn't like school very much. He always loved his teachers. And he was so friendly and sweet and loving, and everybody liked him. But when it came to being in class, in school, oh, he had a hard time. And sometimes he had teachers that didn't like him or seemed to like him very much. And he would get in trouble because he was loud, or he would do something that he wasn't supposed to do. He would talk when he wasn't supposed to, or try and move around the class when he wasn't supposed to. He couldn't quite get his head around following the rules of how school is supposed to be. Because Nate had a hard time sitting still, remember? So it didn't come naturally to him to just sit hour after hour after hour and be still. And sometimes in school, that's what it takes to be a good girl or a good boy. Even though that's a bit crazy, don't you think? Because let's face it, when we're young, all we want to do is run and play. And that's how we learn things half of the time. Nate had had a couple of years at school where his teachers didn't quite understand him. And sometimes he would come home sad because he got into trouble for something really silly. At home, it was very different. Nate's mom and dad loved him very much, and they understood him. They understood him to the point where they kept him busy. He was in lots of out-of-school activities. He played soccer, he did swim, he went on hikes with his parents. This kept Nate happy because he was moving. Anyway, back to school. One year, it was the beginning of school, and Nate was really nervous about what his teacher would be like. His teacher was called Miss Thinnings. Miss Thinnings. She happened to be quite young, and she was actually very pretty. She had blonde curly hair and a very sweet smile, and Nate liked her smile and her face and her name straight away. Miss Thinnings was different from most of the teachers he'd had in the past because she was younger, and for some reason she understood different ways of teaching. She understood that there's lots of kids that are being born these days that don't want to just sit still and be taught school as if it was 200, 300 years ago, the same old rules. Miss Thinnings had ideas, different ways of teaching, and it was perfect for Nate. Does any of this sound like you? Are you one of those kids that don't want to sit still in school? Make sure that you relax your body just a little bit more. You're doing very good at staying still and listening to my story. Good job. Miss Thinnings had this thing that she used to do every day in class. On the hour, every hour, she had a cuckoo clock on the wall. A cuckoo clock is a clock where a bird pops out and goes cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo every hour. What was fun about this clock was it would come out on the hour and go cuckoo, cuckoo, and whatever Miss Thinnings was doing, it didn't matter if she was having a serious conversation or if she was quiet working while the other kids were working, she would make everyone stand up. Okay, kids, it's cuckoo clock time. It's wiggle time. Time to get out your wiggles, she would say. And And it was fun because all the kids got to kind of jiggle and wiggle and laugh and stand on the spot and shake their bodies and move and stretch their arms and kind of jump up and down on their toes. They had 1 minute of movement where they could stretch, run, laugh, do whatever they wanted to do on the spot in the classroom next to their chair. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't crazy time. They didn't run all over the place laughing and screaming and doing silly things. No, they stayed on the spot next to their chair. But they laughed and they could stretch and jump and wiggle everything out of their body that had got trapped over the last hour of sitting still and focusing and doing their work. My gosh, Nate loved it. This was like the best idea ever. Why didn't all the other teachers do this? Good question, Nate. She did other things too, where she would do morning yoga. And in the morning, before they even started doing work, they would stretch out, they would touch their toes, they would do different movements that would help their bodies and their brains to wake up and get focused. This also helped Nate. And many of the other kids in class seemed to respond really well to morning yoga. It was a good idea. Miss Thinnings had this thing where she would talk to each individual child as if they were their own little person. She didn't try and make the whole class behave the same or do the same. Everybody was individual to Mrs. Thinnings. And she knew the best way to teach them and help them to grow. She was such a great teacher. The cool thing about this story is Miss Thinnings changed Nate's life. She helped him to accept who he was and not be ashamed of the fact that he wasn't exactly like some of the kids in class. She actually let each of the children feel special in their own way. This stuck with Nate. It stuck with Nate so much that when he grew up, guess what he became? Yep, a school teacher. And Nate, to this day, is a school teacher. A very good school teacher, I might add. Just like Miss Thinnings, he has some brilliant ideas of how he teaches his kids. And he understands that sometimes, for some certain children, it's just too hard to sit still all day. And you know, Nate's right. Why should we have to sit still all day? Until all the teachers out there in the world are able to maybe be just a little bit like Nate. Then let's make the most of playtime, kids. When you're out there on the playground and it's dinner time or it's break time, you make sure that you run and play and laugh and get all of that energy out there into the world. And if you have to stay still in class, you can do it. You just try your best, okay? Try to focus. Try and do your best. That's all you can do. And maybe you'll grow up and be a school teacher just like Nate or just like Miss Thinnings and make a difference in the world. How cool is that? Now, if you're anything like Nate and you've been running and playing all day, let's make sure it's time to go to sleep right now, yeah? Let's relax our entire bodies. Take a nice deep breath. Wiggle your toes and feel your feet. Let your feet get heavy and relax. Let your whole body start to relax. With your eyes closed, imagine that you're floating back and forward on a wave out there in the ocean. You can imagine that you're on a great adventure, going out there to sea, to find a new land no one had ever discovered before. And as you float back and forward on the waves, you just let the ocean drift you off to your new land, your new place. You let the sun shine down on your face and your body. Just imagine that you're drifting back and forth, back and forth. It's very relaxing, just letting your body float on the waves. There's birds flying in the sky, big white fluffy clouds. And the new land where you're heading will be named just after you. Can you imagine? Your land, your island, with your name on it, could even end up on the globe. Who knows one day? Let your body just fall and relax into the waves. Feeling sleepier and sleepier, happy, safe and calm. Imagine just going back and forth, back and forth, floating on the ocean. Feels so nice and relaxing. Your feet, your legs are very, very heavy. Your hips, back, and tummy are all sleepy and heavy. Your arms are very, very heavy. So heavy that you probably couldn't pick them up, even if you tried, and it feels really nice. Just floating back and forth, chilling out on the waves of the ocean. Let your head get heavy. Let it just sink into the pillow.